Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Love Adapted. I'm your host, Alexandra Huerta, and today we're going to be talking about romance novels that have been adapted into TV shows or movies, and we talk about how the love translates from page to screen. For today's debut episode, I'm going to be starting out with a big one. We're going to be talking about Me Before You by Jojo Moyes and its 2016 film adaptation starring Emilia, Clarke, and Sam Claflin. Now, this story we fell in love with. It made us laugh, it made us cry, and overall, we just fell in love with Will and Lou and their story. This movie brought the story to theaters across the world. However, did the adaptation truly do their love justice, or did it miss some things along the way? Let's find out now and dive right into it. Me Before You by Jojo Moyes follows Louisa Clarke, a quirky young woman who becomes the caregiver for Will Traynor, a wealthy banker left paralyzed after a motorcycling accident. Initially, Will is a bitter and withdrawn man, but Louisa's infectious personality gradually breaks down his walls. As their relationship grows, Louisa learns that Will has his plan to end his life through assisted suicide in 6 months. Determined to show him that life is still worth living, she arranges multiple adventures and experiences, and despite their undeniable chemistry, he still goes through with his plan, and it leaves Louisa heartbroken. In his final moments, Will leaves Louisa a letter encouraging her to pursue her own dreams and live life to the fullest. The film adaptation of Me Before You was released in 2016 and filmed in Pembroke, Wales, United Kingdom. And Emilia, Clarke, and Sam Claflin did so incredible at bringing the chemistry and the love and the fun of these two characters. We get to see him gradually go from this grumpy individual into very happy and just more open. And Louisa's character and her quirkiness is truly brought out by Emilia Clarke, which obviously a lot of people know her from Game of Thrones and maybe didn't expect that sweet and giggly side, but it was really fun to see her versatility of character. Unfortunately, a lot of subplots and characters were even cut from the movie, so there were a lot of changes made, and we still were able to get the heartfelt bittersweetness of the story, just not as fully as I was really hoping for. But there were still some tear-jerking moments that made the novel so popular that were put in the film. So now we're going to be talking about some book-to-movie comparisons, what made it and what didn't. One of the differences from book to movie is Louisa's financial struggles and how she's feeling stuck, and her relationship with her family are a lot stronger in the book, whereas in the movie, we kind of get a quick scene of her serving customers and being happy, and then the owner, as she's closing, hands her a note and says,
"I'm really sorry."
And then she's left jobless, which leaves her frantic because she needs to be able to support her family. But why? In the book, we are taught about why it means so much to her and why this weighing responsibility to be able to support her family is so heavy. And this is how it leads her to the caregiving job and how Will becomes this catalyst in her life. And this change definitely makes it feel like they traded nuance for pacing. Another difference is Patrick's character, who is her boyfriend in the beginning of the story. He is obsessed with running, and he is a fun and goofy guy in the books. Whereas in the movie, they kind of make him a stuck-up and selfish person who's kind of obsessed with himself and doesn't really care about Lou's interests and her dreams. He's just trying to encourage her to be a support for him. Whereas in the book, they're really close. They lived together for a time, and his goofy, fun personality was really fun, but it didn't really push her out of her comfort zone. So when she met Will and she came across this challenge to help uplift this guy and tell him, hey, life is still worth living and let me show you that there's a whole world out there, she ended up showing herself a world that she had never seen before, and maybe the world that she wanted to explore more. And through those challenges, she grew so much, but we don't get to see the background of Patrick and who he is, and I think they ended up changing his emotion and tone as a character in the movie so we would fall in love with Will faster because of that shortened storyline. One of the biggest changes that I noticed that this film removed from the storyline is Louisa's past of being sexually assaulted in the maze in the castle where Will lives. This trauma is something that she later shares with Will, and it brings them closer together because he's encouraging her in the book to come to the maze and come hang out with him, but she's ultimately struggling with it because of her traumatic past. And we don't really get to see that in the book. They skip over it, which is definitely a questionable remove. I can understand why, because obviously with a shortened timeline, we have to keep going faster, and that's a really deep storyline to talk about. However, I think it's really important because it encourages them to become closer, and he's more understanding of her and her vulnerability, and we kind of lose that depth of her as a character. So some of the supporting cast, such as Will's sister, her name is Georgina in the books, they don't appear in the film at all. They're completely cut out, which is kind of weird because her character helps bring out the family dynamic. And Trina, who is Lou's sister, is much more active and has more of a dynamic role in the story by encouraging Lou to put herself out there, to put on this beautiful red dress that's very iconic to the movie. Also, in the book, Will's relationship with his parents is a lot more tense, and we understand why, because Will planning to end his life is heartbreaking for any parent, and the father understands why he's going through with this because before Will lived such an active life. But for a mother, understandably, it's heartbreaking to have to watch your child go through that, but you want what's best for them. You want them to be around. You want to see them grow and outlive you, and it's a heartbreaking thing for a parent to have to see. We're finally here to the final verdict where I get to tell you whether or not I prefer the book or the movie. So let's talk about some of the audience reactions. Some viewers felt the film was really rushed. That's kind of the consensus that they got. And obviously when you read the books, that's really understandable because you're getting a lot more details. You're getting to understand the main characters' thoughts and way of being and their background and how they are and why they do the way they are. This idea pops up often, and it's an understandable frustration to have because, you know, we don't get to have as much of a gradual build in the film as we do in the book, which is sad because it all has to be compressed. On the flip side, a lot of people did praise Emilia Clarke and Sam Claflin's performance. I think I completely agree with those. Their acting is absolutely incredible. They're obviously so talented and they've been in a lot of beautiful stories, and they had such amazing chemistry. Even on their press tour, they were so sweet together, and it truly made me cry. It made me smile. Their love made me feel so much getting to sit in the theater and read it on the pages. So getting to see it come to life, the feeling was there, even if all the scenes weren't. In the book, we have more dynamic characters, and we get to see Lou's quirky personality and Will's struggles in far more detail than we would in the movie. And I truly feel that the emotion is able to be read and understood more than it is in the film because it's not as rushed. And I love getting to read the details of their thoughts and their experiences, and it truly makes me fall more in love with the characters. That's why I give the book a 9 out of 10. I think it's a really good preface if you want to see the movie. However, going back to the movie, it has wonderful acting. And Emilia Clarke and Sam Claflin did an incredible job at being Lou and Will and being in love and showing their relationship build and showing their struggles and emotions. However, it trims down a lot of subplots, it cuts characters, and it makes the story feel a little more rushed and less layered. And that I give the movie a 7 out of 10 stars. If you want the emotional depth and detail, then the book is definitely the way to go. You'll see more dynamic characters and stories, and you'll understand the why they think or why they do things, and you'll feel even more heartbroken when you get to see the love, the loss, and the life after. And I think it's a beautiful story to get to indulge in. Definitely read these stories and fall in love with these characters, and remember that life is so worth living and to experience as much as you can. I think that's the beautiful thing that this book taught me. In the movie truly brought me to tears because I loved these actors, I loved the story, and I got to see this movie with my mom in 2016. It was something that I was like, I want to see this. It's a more sophisticated film as I thought, but it was definitely one of the movies that made me fall in love with romance. So I definitely recommend it. Thank you so much for tuning in to Love Adapted. I hope you enjoyed this first episode as much as I did. And if you're interested for more, please follow my Instagram and TikTok at Love Adapted for more behind the scenes and fun content. Don't forget to subscribe because next week we're going to be covering Heartstopper and its Netflix show adaptation. You won't want to miss it. It's going to be such a blast. So please keep your hearts open and your bookmarks ready. Until next time, bye-bye.